Hey guys, it is day 5, another awesome day. I can't wait to tell you about it. We started out by going on a hike in the Judean hill country. And so we spent a good 2.5 hours hiking down this path. And then our instructor, Jack Beck, would stop along the way and just teach us things based on the natural landscape that we were seeing. And I'll give you a couple examples of that in a minute. This is Jack. Jack reminds me a lot of Indiana Jones. He is a college professor, and then he goes on all these adventures, and he kind of looks a little bit like Harrison Ford back in the day. Let me show you something that's kind of cool that we can see just over Jack's left shoulder. And I'll do a close up of it. This is how they did farming in the Judean Hill Country. It was a really tedious and grueling prospect because they didn't have very much land to do the farming. So they would do these retaining walls, and then they would have this amount of area to farm, and then a retaining wall, and this amount of area to farm. This was an unbelievably long and tedious process. This goes all along the side of this ridge and would take about 4 to 5 years, including the process of planting a vineyard along here. And so they would get the starter vineyard. They would do all of this work, a big family, a clan. They would build. This is a watchtower that they build, great press. And they would work for 4 to 5 years before they would see the first fruit of their crops. And then what Jack does that's so cool is he takes the landscape that we're seeing and he ties it into scripture, because the people who were reading this, of course, this was their everyday. This was their day to day. So let me give you an example. After showing us all this, he took us to Isaiah 5:1. God says, I will sing for the one I love a song about his vineyard. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it up, and I should say there, he didn't just have one. The people reading this know that they tediously prepared this on the fertile hillside. So he dug it up and cleared it of the stones and planted it with the choicest vines. He built a watchtower on it. Here's the watchtower that they built, and cut a wine press as well. And then he looked for a crop of good grapes, but it yielded only bad fruit. And so Isaiah is saying, this is how God feels about you, O Israel, because um, he has planted this vineyard and it's yielded bad fruit. And how would you feel if you put all of this time, energy, and effort in and it yielded bad fruit? Just one more example to give you. He had a ton of them, but this right here is an almond, uh, off of an almond tree. This is a budding of an almond, and the almonds were the first to bud in the spring, and so they are just starting to bloom now. But to the Israeli mind, this signaled the start of spring. So almond buds, start of spring, go hand in hand. And so there are a number of verses in the Old Testament that talk about almond buds, but the writer assumes that the reader will make the instant connection that almond bud means start of something new, start of something fresh. And so the Jeremiah passage, that Jeremiah 1, that includes the passage that we all quote, before you were in my mother's womb, I knew you, I knit you together. Well, it goes on to say, God to say to Jeremiah, the word of the Lord came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah? I see the branch of an almond tree, I replied. And the Lord said to me, you have seen correctly, for I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled. So, in other words, the almond tree is something new, something fresh that's going to be coming forth in Jeremiah's life. And so, after leaving this area, we went to the city where Samson lived. Just have a quick picture I want to show you here. We looked at some archaeological stuff that was kind of neat. Did a teaching on this area about the Ark of the Covenant and some different things. But Samson grew up right on a town that's marked where this tree is. So that was kind of interesting. But the last thing we did, to me, was just the neatest thing that we did all day. We hiked up about 40 minutes to the Valley of Elah, overlooking the Valley of Elah, which is where David fought Goliath. And so check out this view once we get to the top. So we are on this hill and we're looking out over the Valley of Elah. And so right here is, this is Sokoth, if I'm saying it right. It's in 1 Samuel. This is where the Philistines had set up camp. And then the Israeli army, Saul, is right here. And so the confrontation between David and Goliath most likely happened right here. And so, just to give a little background on what had happened here, this whole valley area, the Mediterranean would be out this way, and the Philistines had the land that was closest to the Mediterranean. But they were advancing, trying to get to the advance into Israel, because the hill country of Judea is out here, Jerusalem is out this way, Hebron is up this way. So this is kind of a critical pass that the Israeli army has got to stop the Philistines, or they will have open access to overtake their country. So they're at a real big crossroads here. And just show you a quick video of the land. Yeah, so this is the Valley of Elah along here. So this was entirely full of the Philistine soldiers, going way, way back. So we're looking at this atop a hill that is a recent archaeological find. It's called the city of, I'm going to say it wrong, but it's Shasharium. And it's actually also mentioned in 1 Samuel. And so this archaeological find is one of the most important things they found pertaining to King David and him actually being a king. And so this is from the ruins. I just thought this was fascinating. This right here was something that they built, cast rooms or something like that. But basically, they had a double purpose. If they were in a time of peace, they just used it as storage. But if they were in a time of war, they would fill it up with rocks and it would create a big wall for them. And they found a 10,000 square foot citadel up top that was almost kind of like a palace. So just a major archaeological find. This is going to become a national landmark in Israel. We kind of got in early. So it's not totally set yet. It also is one of the cities, only city that they found in archaeological terms that had 2 gates, which is a big deal for the archaeologists. But just really just interesting seeing it. And this is the view looking out from this city in the Valley of Elah here. So again, another fascinating day, and just the impact of reading scripture through the lens of the land is just really opens it up and makes it come to life.